bugs leaving the tree. So this tree has been infected with emerald ash borer already, but that is the exit wound of the bug coming back out of the tree.
And she's dead.
If it's not dead, it's about dead.
That's good firewood there.
Yep, and even like that black ash right there, that one is on its way to dying. It's not dead yet, obviously, but there's an exit wound right there.
The mice will come down.
Yep. We're going logging, hey?
The other thing I would probably take out of here with me is I would get rid of them two big popple trees.
Okay.
Those don't. This one is probably solid yet. They're looking at it. There's a decent chance that big one is not solid anymore. So I'd probably get rid of them. And they're kind of hazard trees anyways. Popple trees have a tendency to drop a lot of branches. You know, they just kind of up and die and then.
Okay. Yeah, she definitely needs to be thinned out more in here.
Yeah.
But it's much better than it was.
I tend to cut things, and especially like where this is a guy's yard, what I've seen a lot of people do is they'll clear them up pretty good and they'll basically plant a fence row of fruit or something along the road. People just can't look at all your shit.
That's pretty much I was going to stop. We'll almost run at and just leave what's at the road.
Yeah, we could always plant that out too as time goes on.
Get some spruce trees or some, you know, whatever, and just so not everybody's looking in at your yard all the time.
Yeah. So
Hemlocks, aspen. There's a couple aspen over there, but I think those ones might be okay. They might be far
them
up.
are far enough away from everything. I don't know that I worry about them quite so much. And that's kind of leaving them for some of the barrier too, of course.
And then the other side.
Birch, no reason to keep birch, hey?
No, I give
We
it a
can't
no.
tap them for that little extra flavor.
They'll certainly make a little bit of sap. The problem is by the time they really start to run, you're done making maple syrup.
Okay. Do you have strictly sap, birch sap customers?
I've got a few producers I work with. Most of them are in Alaska that make only birch syrup, but I've got a number of guys I work with up there that they're kind of trying to use birch trees to make syrup.
Do you make a good amount of it?
Yeah, the one right around 6,000 pounds.
Oh, that ratio is pretty far off, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes 100 gallons of birch sap, sometimes even more than that to make a gallon of syrup.
And does it run less too?
Runs more, don't it?
When they run harder, but the season is a lot shorter. It's only a couple weeks long. Where, you know, we can make syrup for 6 or 8 weeks depending on how the season goes, or maple syrup, but birch is a couple of weeks at best. And part of it is the climate in Alaska too. They just don't have much for shoulder seasons. You know, spring and fall are cold because the day length is just changing so fast.
So this needs to be thinned out, yes, but the creek's just
Yep. Yeah, I think you could run a main line, you know, right along the creek, and you know, if you guys start working your way up the creek to keep maintaining slope or whatnot, that's certainly easy to do.
Would you hug the very bottom of the creek?
I would try and stay in the bottom as much as a person can. Obviously, you know, you might have to start working your way out a little bit depending on where the property line is, you know, how you worry about that.
And then just my laterals. I mean, some of them might exceed.
Yeah, you're gonna get a little long on some of them, but again, there's there's a handful of taps where the laterals are gonna get long. So you've got 6 or 8 taps here. The rest of them all seem to be from here on down, so it's not the end of the world.
Okay. There's one spot that's, and then. So do you think I need a dry line for these two longer ones?
I don't think so, because even these aren't incredibly long anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, it's maybe 500 or 550 feet I would guess. It's not like it's a 1,200 foot long main line.
Yeah, what's the cutoff between dry line? Is that about that 800?
800 to 1,000 generally is where you start.
Okay. And probably flat means more than gravity in that too.
Exactly, yep. The flatter it gets, the more wet dry is the feeling. So I would probably, where this starts curving, you know, comes out of the creek here, I would probably bring that up and end that, probably, this tree might very well be my end tree. If you can, big thing would be taking this basswood out without killing that tree, because I don't love this basswood here leaning over the end tree, because if it does fall, it's gonna shear the end of that right off. But I would look real hard, because you could come out of the creek, pop up over the hill, and then you could still, you know, even down to those trees, it's not that far, and you could still make it run downhill to get
So like actual like high vacuum, even though it's down there, it should still suck it
Yeah.
back up there.
And just because, so the end of this main line can very well be way down here, so you can still make your slope on your 5/16 by doing that, because you're coming up so far to come out of the creek bed.
So I have good slope, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, this whole property's got good slope. You're not fighting, like some places really fight to maintain good.
So the only spot I'm really gonna fight it is up top.
Yeah, exactly. You are gonna need a sap out of that because you don't fall off.
Yeah, you could run that super low and then be higher than a lot of
Yeah,
these, I
exactly.
suppose.
Make the laterals come up. Because I mean, even if the laterals are at eye level, that's still not scary.
So basically just come right through. Do I try to keep it up high, or do I try, because it drops off?
So with it being in the creek bed here, I would try and keep it, once you get up here, I would try and keep it up chest height or so. Because the one thing that really gives a guy is you generally have a lot less animal damage when it's, you know, when it's out of the deer's reach and the bear's reach, you have a lot less issues with them chewing on it.
Okay. Perfect. And then you said you would do like 1.25 inches up here?
No, I would leave this all one. I think I would leave this all 1 inch. Seeing how this lays out, I think I just do everything in 1 inch. Keep it simple.
Okay.
I don't think there's any reason, because even this, you know, this line is still probably only going to have 150 or so taps on it maximum, so it's not like it's overloaded for 1 inch by any means.
And then, would you do blue or black?
Tubing?
Yeah.
Blue.
Okay.
Why? Blue versus black?
The sap doesn't get as warm, and you've got plenty of slope here that you should never have sap staying in the main lines and freezing overnight.
Oh, so black would be just for heat?
Yep.
That's interesting.
And if you don't want to see the tubing, I mean, if you don't want to look at the tubing, then black is a lot more appealing, but most people don't. I mean, the tubing doesn't bother, unless the tubing, seeing the blue tubing in the woods is a bother for you. Some people just don't like to look at it.
It don't bother me.
I personally think it's pretty. I mean, I like driving around and seeing blue tubing in the woods, but that's not.
We don't hardly
very
ever
much
see
around
it.
here. You don't
No.
see it very often.
No, I would imagine. It's not like down by us where you drive everywhere on the back
No.
roads and there's tubing.
It's way different up here. And it could be.
Yeah, oh yeah, you got more trees up here than anywhere else in the world.
There just
I mean,
ain't. Yeah, there ain't many. With tubing, rose, and this,
Bald-
and what?
Agate.
Agate.
Yeah.
There ain't many.
no.
Yeah, the only spot, like, we have a bunch of 5/16s when I was telling you with the steep hill.
Yep.
That's someone's yard.
Okay.
Kinda. So we were thinking maybe by like that shadow tubing.
Yeah, exactly, by the shadow gray tubing. Yeah, if they would prefer that and it's in somebody's yard, you want to try and keep them happy, then the shadow gray tubing is certainly a better option there.
No, he's thinking, you can't even see it at your house.
I
Well,
want the tubing that attracts the deer. Like deer like to come look at it and stuff. And
The problem is when they do that, then they chew on it.
yeah, true. I'll put up a dummy line for them to chew on.
That's just where you go dump corn everywhere.
The big, yeah, true. The biggest maple syrup flavored corn.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, Nick, is we're going to get clearing.
yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense to put it up and then clear.
No, it's
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
be
that's gonna
clear.
suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this year we had a tote down here, and we were hauling it all the way back up with the wheeler. It was
And fighting
br-
in the mud and climbing the
Oh,
hill.
it was-
You'll see it on the
There
video.
was many times we were like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You held that composure together, good.
And then the father-in-law, he bitches. I'm like, we could be doing this